everyone, my name is Manal Al-Fayez and you're watching From Scratch. On today's episode of From Scratch, we're making tortillas. The type of tortillas that we're making today are corn tortillas to make a final dish of chicken tinga tacos. They're so delicious and very easy to make. For your corn tortillas, what you're gonna need is some salt, some masa flour, otherwise known as corn flour, and some warm water. So to do so, all you need is to dump in all your corn flour in a mixing bowl. Add in your salt. Give that a nice mix before adding in your water. And what I have over here is warm water that has been already pre-boiled. You want warm water to help activate the gluten that is found in the corn flour, although it does not have gluten, but it has a similar kind of structure. So warm water will help activate that. What you want to do is start little by little. You don't want to add all of the water right at the beginning. You just want to achieve a very Play-Doh-like texture. So I'm gonna swap out with using our spatula at this point. So again, a Play-Doh-like texture is what you want to achieve. You don't want your mixture to be too dry or too wet. So also depending on the weather of the day, if it's very humid where you're at, you want to make sure you hold on to the water content because you may not need the full amount. So I'm just going gradually just so I could achieve the proper texture. So what I'm going to do right now is cover this up, let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll see you guys after the break. We're going to start on our filling. So now we're on to the stage where our tortilla mixture is resting. You want to set that aside for as long as it needs. I'm going to give that about 10 to 15 minutes. What we're going to work on now is our chicken filling. So for that, what you're going to need is some salt, whole piece of chicken, and some chopped vegetables. So what we have is some chopped onions and some chopped carrots with a sachet of herbs. I've got some thyme and rosemary. So what I'm going to do to start off is grab our chicken, put it right into our pot right here. And what I'm going to do is drop in all our vegetables and our sachet of herbs all around. And then what we're going to do is fill this up with some room temperature water. You don't want to do too much, but you want enough to cover up your chicken. You want that chicken to be fully submerged in the water. And what I'm going to do right now is switch on the heat, bring it up to a first boil, and then lower down the temperature to a simmer. You want to keep it simmering for around 45 minutes. All the way until the chicken is fully cooked. So just high heat, let it come up to a boil. What I'm going to do is give it an initial first 2 pinches of salt. We're going to bring this up to a boil once again and let it simmer with a lid opened kind of just a little bit to let it steam out. So we're gonna let this happen while we work on our tortillas. So I'm gonna grab our tortilla press and we could work on this. And after this comes up to a boil, we could set this aside and start cooking our tortillas. So now's the time that we actually work on our corn tortillas. I have a very well rested dough over here. and I've got my tortilla press. So this tortilla press is really needed in this procedure because it gets you that perfect thickness. So we're gonna learn how to use that in just a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep an eye on my chicken right here just until it comes up to a boil, and I'll lower it down to a simmer, and then I'll set it aside in the very back of my stovetop. So we're gonna get started over here. What I'm gonna do initially is start by kind of portioning them down into small pieces. So I'm just grabbing around 35 grams to 45 grams each. And I'm just gonna give them a nice shaping before starting to press them down. So this is really gonna help with cutting down on time when you work this way, because otherwise you'd have to pause and then go back to cooking. So it just takes a long time. So this is the best and most effective way of cooking. So we're just portioning them down. You could use a scale at this point to make sure you've got all the shapes and all the measurements are the same. I just like eyeballing them. I'm not looking for perfection at this point. So you want to make sure that you got your portions nice and smooth, just because if you've got some cracks and curves already initially when starting to portion them down, you'll start to notice that when you put it through the tortilla press. So you want to get a nice smooth texture at the very beginning. So my chicken has already started to boil. What I'm going to do is lower down the heat, let it simmer, and actually move this at the very back. So it's right in the back, simmering at a low heat. I put a timer for 45 minutes, and then we're gonna check for doneness. So meanwhile, you're still working on your tortillas. This is a really great alternative for gluten-free people out there. So if you are gluten-free or trying to cut down on your gluten, this is a really great alternative. And it's super delicious as well. So what I'm gonna do right now is cover this up. You wanna make sure that you've got, as I said, some plastic wrap in handy, because you wanna make sure everything is nice and covered and no skin is forming. What I'm gonna do is just pull out my towel, and this towel is going to be used to collect all the cooked tortillas and reserve them inside until needed. What you wanna make sure of is you've got a nice pocket that you could stack your tortillas right inside and have them completely sealed off. And you want to make sure to do that because you don't want your tortillas to dry out. So what I have in front of me is actually a tortilla press. You can also find it in the form of a chapati press. It's still the same. All you want is this very heavy tool right here, which is going to help with achieving the perfect thickness. What I have over here is some prepared pieces of parchment paper that we're going to use to line and easily remove our tortillas. You never want to go straight onto the press itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our prepared tortilla dough balls over here, and what I have here is a kind of hot medium heat pan that is dry. No oil has been added to this pan, and this is a non-stick pan. What we're going to do is we're going to put it through our tortilla press just like so, with two pieces of parchment paper on top of each other, and you want to give it a nice push, couple nice pushes. You want to check for thickness. If it's too thick, you could go ahead with pressing it a bit more. Right, so with the use of parchment paper, it should give you a tortilla that is very easy to release, just like so. And with a properly made dough, it should not break apart. So we're just gonna put that on the pan right here. After it cooks, you wanna flip it over to the other side. What you're looking for is nice golden specks all the way around. And while that happens, we're gonna work on pressing our next tortilla. A great sign of a very good tortilla dough is this over here, where you see some nice inflation happening. Your dough is going to kind of have a hollow center and it's going to really rise. So that's a really great sign of a very good tortilla dough. So I'm gonna keep on doing what I'm doing for a while until I get all of the tortillas nice and cooked. So it's just going to be a routine where I am pressing the tortillas and cooking them. You could opt for adding some more pans or a bigger pan where you could cook more than one tortilla at a time. So I've got my tortilla nice and cooked. What I'm gonna do is tuck it right inside and cover it up completely. You don't wanna have any air being exposed to your tortillas. So our final tortilla is in the pan. Once the tortilla is fully cooked, what we're gonna do is take out our chicken. It's been in the water simmering for around 45 minutes. Right, so our final tortilla is out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to reserve my tortillas in this towel until needed. That's exactly how you should do it at home as well. So what I'm gonna do right now is just pull our chicken that's been cooking for quite some time. I'm gonna grab a tray. So you wanna remove it from the pot of water very gently, right into this tray. And what we're gonna do is let it sit on our counter for around 10 minutes. What you wanna do is make sure that smoke kind of subsides for you to easily go in there and shred it up with your hands. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go on a break and we'll be right back where we could start with our filling. So what's left to work on is our chicken tinga filling. And to do so, what you're gonna need is some diced red onions, some garlic, some dried oregano, some chipotle peppers, stock that we used from our water that we were boiling the chicken in, chopped fire roasted tomatoes, and some ground cumins. So what's left to do is actually shred our chicken. The chicken has been sitting at room temperature for around 10 minutes and you actually can visibly see that the smoke has started to subside. You want to put on some gloves because it might get a bit too hot, and what you want to do is just simply start to shred the chicken into a clean bowl right next to you. So we're just going to grab the chicken and start by shredding it just like so. You don't want to shred it too much. You want to get those nice bigger chunks. So I've got all of the edible parts in my bowl right here. Then we could just simply start by cooking. So what I'm gonna do to start off is heat up our pan right here. You wanna start off with medium heat. And what you're gonna do is put just a little bit of oil. Wait until that starts to heat up. And then we're going to start off with our diced onions. Okay, so my oil is nice and hot. What I'm gonna do is add in our onions. So my onions have turned nice and translucent. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna add in our minced garlic. Next, we're gonna add in our chipotles, and these chipotles have been marinated in an adobo sauce. So just make sure that you've got that in handy. This is gonna give us a nice heat as well. gonna add in our oregano and cumin and get that nice and toasted. So once you've noticed that your pan is starting to dry up, what you're gonna add in next is your fire roasted tomatoes. You wanna wait until the liquid is released and then dries up once again. And you wanna ensure that all of those tomatoes have completely broken down. You don't want larger chunks. So using fire roasted tomatoes instead of regular tomatoes is really gonna add a lot of depth of flavor. That smokiness and depth and flavor comes in from easily just exposing your tomatoes on an open flame and just waiting for that outer layer to get that nice charcoal blackened color. So once I start noticing that our tomatoes have started to break down, what I'm gonna do is add in our chicken stock. And let that simmer and wait until your tomatoes have completely broken down. So you want to make sure you've got this nice saucy consistency. Any drier than this, it would not be perfect or ideal. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add in our chicken, get that nice and heated up again, and then we'll be ready to assemble everything together. Gonna switch off the heat, grab the rest of our ingredients and our tortillas, and we're going to start assembling. So everything is already prepared, everything is ready to be plated together. What we need at the very final stages to garnish is the following: some cotija cheese, which is a Mexican style cheese, some sliced avocados, very small diced red onions, some limes to be used at the end for garnish, as well as some cilantro. So what I'm gonna go ahead with doing is I'm gonna grab 3 pieces of tortillas and I'll put them right onto our cutting board. I'm gonna grab just a small amount of filling. So this is key. You don't wanna overfill your tacos because then it's going to be very hard to pick up and actually eat. So you wanna put a very small amount. Very small amount. Small amount like so. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab some slices of avocado. Put that right on top. This is going to add a really nice, vibrant green in color. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to add in some diced onions, and this is optional. If you want to add it, you can. If you don't really have to. I'm gonna add some cotija cheese. And we're ready to start plating it up onto our taco holder. Finally, what I'm going to do is just garnish with some cilantro leaves. And there you have it, our tortillas made from scratch to make our final dish of the day, which is chicken tinga tacos. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time on From Scratch.